In Sydney this morning, cannabis plants have been placed across the city to prompt discussion around making use of the drug legal. For years, those suffering from terminal illnesses or conditions which see them endure immense pain have used medicinal cannabis to deal with pain and symptoms, often having to get their hands on it illegally. As of last Friday, a new national scheme will speed up the process for people to access it, and the only problem is the cost is so high, many families are still forced to get it illegally. Now, Ben Oakley suffers an incredibly rare disease known as stiff person syndrome, which sees him have multiple seizures every day, which are incredibly painful. Have a look.
What's wrong? What's that?
The Antonex is for value, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's it. Just calm down.
How many?
One.
Ben and his dad, Michael, are with us in the studio now. Welcome to the show, both of you. Ben, that is so hard to watch and obviously very emotional for you to see yourself in that sort of pain. Can you take us through what it feels like when you're in that moment of suffering a seizure?
It's completely and utterly agony. I'm in excruciating amount of pain. Realistically, every time I have a spasm, whether it be a couple of seconds or a few hours, I'm knocking on death's door. It's quite scary.
So you're fully conscious and you know what's happening when these hit you?
That's it. I am fully conscious, can hear everything, feel everything, and see everything.
You were saying to me just before that you were even in huge amounts of pain just coming here this morning. There was one day where you suffered from 61 seizures. That's a huge amount. Tell us what effect cannabis has on you and how it helps you.
Since I've been like this, I've had over 600 spasms, which, as you saw, are extremely life-threatening. But since I've been using medicinal cannabis oil for the last 3 years, I've only had 3 spasms, and I haven't had a full body spasm in 2.5 years.
Do we know why it works or just that it does work?
Oh, we definitely know why it works. There's a lot of evidence behind this. I mean, Israel have been doing this for nearly 50 years. So there's a lot of information regarding this, but unfortunately Australia seems to be reinventing the wheel.
Michael, despite the new program, you still sometimes have to obtain this illegally because it can cost you up to $1,600 for a 3-week supply, is that right?
I'd love to say not sometimes, but all the time, unfortunately. We're still breaking the law every single day to keep my son alive. The legal source that we could get Ben on, $1,695 in advance every 3 weeks. And that didn't include the import licence, the export licence and the cost of securing it in a secured facility.
I don't understand. So how can some drug-addled bong-smoking hippie produce cheaper dope than the smartest brains in Australia? I cannot get my head around how we can't do this more efficiently.
We can do it more efficiently, we will. There's no doubt about that in my mind, but right now the government opened the door for medicinal cannabis but made it so hard and so expensive for companies to be able to set it up properly to grow cannabis for medicinal use that it is millions of dollars just to set up a farm. It's ridiculous.
Like setting up a jail, to be honest.
Is it something that where the costs are going to be very high in the setting up phase but become cheaper over time, or is the red tape so stringent that it's always going to be this high?
Recently, the state government has put an axe through, in their own words, the structures around medicinal cannabis to make it easier to access. I've not yet seen anything that's addressed the supply issues. Until that happens, it's still going to be ridiculously expensive. Most people will break the law rather than go through potentially months of getting doctors on board, getting what they need to be able to access medicinal cannabis. We are still breaking the law.
Wow.
You mentioned this is a matter of life and death in Ben's case, and in the case of so many people suffering from a range of illnesses, isn't it?
Yeah. We have been contacted by thousands of people since I originally set up Ben's Facebook page, Roll On Ben Oakley, just to try and give some explanation as to what had happened to someone who was so vibrant and full of life. Ben was triathlon fit before this happened. Now he's in constant pain. It has improved, but...
Can you explain to people out there, Ben, who might be, thinking that if we legalise medicinal cannabis, or just cannabis in general here in Australia, that it's going to kind of open the door for a whole range of drug addicts? When you take a cannabis pill, what does it actually do to you?
Medicinal cannabis helps relieve the pain. It reduces muscle spasm.
Do you get high from it?
No.
Yeah.
I've never once been high on medicinal cannabis, yet I've been high on pharmaceuticals, legal pharmaceuticals, endone, for instance.
course.
You know, and that is perfectly legal.
Obviously, there's a difference here between what the Greens have just called for, which is the legalisation of dope, marijuana for recreational use, and what is already in play, which is medicinal cannabis. People like yourselves who are suffering from chronic conditions. I still don't understand why state governments here in New South Wales, and I think in Queensland as well and elsewhere, have said, yes, we support this, we accept the science. I still don't understand why it's so prohibitively expensive and difficult for someone like you. Can you just take us through the hoops you have to jump through?
In Australia right now, they say we need more science, we need to study this further. They're not looking at studies that have been done well over 50 years in different parts of the world. They need Australian-only studies to verify what they already know. So as Ben said, they're reinventing the wheel. If they open the door just a little to allow for reasonable gold-class studies to be used for Australian research, this is already done. People will be able to access very, very quickly because they won't have to jump through so many hoops.
So it's a small change from government that could change things very quickly.
Absolutely.
And
People who are sick don't want to be high; they want to be well. You know, and as I said before, I've only been out of it with pharmaceuticals, never with medicinal cannabis. You know, this is going to change a lot of people's lives if we just get out of its way and give the access to those people. This can be an extremely cost-effective plant, but at this point in time, it's not.
And unlike some of those other drugs you're on, you know, you mentioned endone and so forth, we know that they're addictive and dangerous in so many ways, and that's a growing problem. Is medicinal cannabis, does it have any of those problems associated with it?
As I said, I've never once been high. The worst effects that I've had with medicinal cannabis are burps. Okay, I think I'd much rather that over a lot of the pharmaceuticals, because once they give one medication, there's always something to counteract that, and you end up on multiple tablets a day. And I was taking up, was it 20 a day, if not more, at one stage.
Wow.
You know, so it's changed my life quite dramatically. I can't express that enough, which is why we're doing what we're doing, because so many people need this. You know, there need to be a lot more people standing up and fighting for this. It's extremely hard. I mean, I'm in pain this morning, and realistically I shouldn't be here, but I'm doing it because we've got to do it. Right? People need access, and they need it now. They can't wait because people are dying. People aren't well. You know, the government say they're proud that it's there and it's available, and, you know, yeah, it might be accessible, but at the same time, it's not cost effective. No,
Well, it's accessible only if you're rich, if you can afford
that's right, exactly.
$1,600 every 3 weeks. It's
That's
ridiculous.
right. Ben, thank you so much for joining us, and also Michael, thank you so much. It's a really important conversation we need to have. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.